Thank you all for being here. I appreciate actually the quick response and everyone coming out. It's obviously been a couple of tough days, frankly, tough weeks, and unfortunately, we've got a couple of tough months we think ahead of us. So first, what we're going to do is actually have Josh Tellison, who's with operations, who's going to sort of talk about this fire, talk about what's been happening the past couple of days, what we expect to happen today and the days coming. So thank you, Josh, for being here, and thanks for your service.
Good morning, Josh Tellison, Operations, Northeast Washington, Team 2. So our primary objectives have been to check the fire spread to the south, protect the structures along the Weenus Drive here, the main road, and also the community here at the Weenus Lake. Our biggest challenges have been just a lack of resources, so it's taken us a couple days to get around it, but we have the north flank and east flank in very good shape, and we continue to mop up from the origin at DP 30 down through Alpha. A continued operation today is to continue to secure the presence along those structures there, and with any luck, we'll have this thing in patrol status by Sunday.
I think that was the most efficient report I've ever had on a fire.
Yeah, try to be efficient.
I can tell. Thank you. So, and I'll, Yakima Vice Chairman, would you like to say a few words before we kind of dive in and take questions too?
Thank you, Hilary. And, I just like to thank everyone, coming together, with the full force of team effort on this, because, just understanding Yakima Nation and its members, utilizing, the usual and custom lands and our ceded territories and how we're neighbors and the community that is here, that we're all one when it comes to these lands. So, I just wanted to highlight too, at the same time, that this drought season and this dryness, needs to be addressed and being of the high concern of our, community and members, especially for the safety of, our communities, our members, our natural resources, our medicines, our foods, our wildlife, our animals, in protection of everything of the land, because that's what we're here for, is, to stand up for our lands. So, I just want to thank everyone for this time and thank everyone for, coming together to address this emergency, because it's hitting all communities, whether it's here in this area, Bickleton, White Swan, we just need to all come together and make sure that we keep our communities safe. So, I just want to thank Hilary for this time and our firefighters, our front line, putting their lives on the line to make sure that we're safe. So I just want to share those few words and, thank everyone for today.
Thank you so much. So I think it's pretty clear we are in the middle of fire season and some really tough, challenging times. Currently, the two fires we have down here, both the Retreat Fire and the Black Canyon Fire, are obviously exhausting resources in this area and have been some pretty challenging, especially with the winds. We currently have about 10 large fires burning on the landscape. And to be honest, a number of them are keeping us up at night. Obviously, the Pioneer Fire, the Swawila Fire, these two fires here, as well as the one down back down to the in Klickitat, which brings back memories of last year's fire, the Newell Road Fire. The winds did not help, as we know. I always say that's the deadliest cocktail that you add to hot, dry terrain and fuel as well as spark. Currently, we have about 82,000 acres that are already have burned. About 32,000 acres of that is on DNR protected lands, the 13 million acres that we protect. We are still, I would say we are still very well blessed in the fact that we have more resources than we've ever had before, even though, as you heard from Josh, we are challenged not having enough resources. We've had about 42 air resources that are positioned throughout these areas and trying to get on these fires quickly and contain them. And while they're fighting the fires, they're also being pulled off for initial attack on other sparks that start. We obviously have a significant amount of ground resources, everything from our dozer operators to our firefighters on the ground across local, state, and federal agencies that are absolutely helping. Where we are also getting stretched is not only the number of fires that we're having, but right now, Oregon, to be frank, is in dire straits. We down in Oregon, they have had more fires starts and more acres burned than Washington, Idaho, and California combined, which is going to continue to stress the resources that we might be able to call in from other states and from federal agencies. We're fortunate to have the National Guard has now been authorized and has been brought in to help out. We are grateful for that. And we have about 90 personnel from other states that are also assisting us here in the state of Washington. I think my big message is going to be directly at that it's still the case that most of our fires are started by humans. Last year, 90% of our fires were started by humans. A lot of the fires that we currently have on the landscape were human caused. And I can't stress enough how tough this season already is, and we're only in July. How many of us are predicting this fire season is going to go well into October. And our men and women on the ground and in the air are absolutely already exhausted and tried. And so we are urging everyone to please do your part and actually first prevent these fires in the first place. Be extremely safe out there. Second, if you are in an area where we have fires and a fire starts, we're asking to please pay attention to our evacuation levels. Those are there to actually ensure the safety of everyone, as well as the safety of our firefighters that are trying to do everything they can to protect the structures and protect lives. And then I would just say my biggest is thoughts and prayers for our firefighters and our communities. I just learned on the way here that another pilot has gone down in Oregon. I will say this is our third loss in just a month in our aviation firefighting family. And I think it's the one thing we stress to everybody when they ask, well, why are we not having air resources in the air all the time, or why are we not in certain locations, is safety comes first, the safety of our community members and the safety of our firefighters. And so please, thoughts and prayers for those who are on the ground and in the air in Washington and across this country. I also want to recognize we have two amazing legislators here. And if you want, both of you come forward to be able to be present here along with Josh, and we can take questions. Just want to thank you for your leadership. Gina, you and I have been on a lot of fires together in 8 years, and I don't, you have a very challenging district in the context of a lot of hot, dry fuel and a lot of wind that doesn't necessarily help. But why don't you just want to introduce yourself, and then we're here to take questions.
Thank you, Hilary. Washington State Rep Gina Mosbrecher, and just mostly my thoughts and prayers go out to the firefighters, as was said, but also to the families who have to evacuate. We're fighting the Bighorn fire in the gorge, and of course across the river is concerning because, like you said, there's so many fires all at once that resources are limited. We've had fires switch from Oregon to Washington with embers and storms and wind that has caught embers and switched to Washington, Oregon. So we're both being very careful right now to protect those borders and those lines. So grateful for everyone here. Thank you for sharing with people. It puts their mind at ease. It gives them more peace knowing what's happening when they see smoke and they hear about fire and people being evacuated. And please, just want to stress that the evacuation zones are critical. I've blocked roads before, and people have tried to go past the level 3 to get their television or their pet, and it's just critical to save their life as well as firefighters who are risking their lives. So thank you for being here, and thank you for giving everyone an update. Appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Hilary, for inviting us again. My name is Nikki Torres, and I'm a state senator for the 15th Legislative District, which is portions of 5 counties, mainly Yakima and Franklin County. And, I really want to give a heartfelt thank you to our first responders and all the agencies that have come together to help combat these fires. because it seems like our fire season has started earlier and they've been getting longer as well. So my heart goes out to everyone that's out there battling those fires and trying to keep our communities safe and our agriculture lands and our animals safe, but most importantly, again, our communities. So thank you. And thank you for the updates as well.
We're happy to take questions. I bet, Josh, you're going to have to be ready to field a lot of these because you're the guy on the ground too. But happy to take questions. Yes.
You touched on this a little bit, Commissioner, but the status of resources right now, I know we have more than ever, but not quite enough. Is this what do things look like?
I mean, I'll say it is not normal about what we have being used right now, largely because we, 3 years ago, there was no way we had 42 air resources in Washington State. I mean, I think the first step is we brought in 42 air resources. 12 of them are DNR owned. So 10 of our Vietnam War Hueys. I always have to stress Vietnam just to show you that how old they are. And then 2 of our Kodiaks, which has helped really on the imaging and understanding of the movement of fires. That information is critical not only in helping strategically fight the fires and know where to be building that containment line, but it also is able to give real-time information down to the firefighters on the ground and the incident command about where they need to be, but how you keep your firefighters safe and the community safe. On the ground, we also have far more resources than ever before, more dozers, more dozer operators. Again, a lot of the critical funding of House Bill 1168, that unprecedented 125 million a biennium is truly paying off right now. That being said, as you heard from Josh, and I heard from a number of my own folks at DNR when I came in here, resources are stretched thin in a number of ways. I'd say resources are stretched thin and becoming that way in aviation. Largely because we have to give them rest time. Resources are being stretched on the ground. Again, rest is critical, but many of the resources that we might be able to lean on nationally are right now largely going to Oregon for the obvious reasons. It is dire straits down there and really, really challenging. And that's why it's critical that we reduce these fires. I also would say that I think the biggest I would say maybe this is a note of positive news. I'm trying to find it, knowing that we've got a lot of tricky days ahead of us just because some of these fires, like the Pioneer Fire, the Swalila Fire, the one you were talking down in the gorge, are tricky as well as these, is that at this point in time, actually, we are still well below our 10-year average as to the number of fires that we have had and the number of acres that have burned. And I do believe that is largely due to the fact of the number of resources we have. I mean, us being able to bring those, 30 air resources on exclusive use means we're not having to fight for them at the national level and losing them to other states. We can actually keep them here and leverage them when we need them so we can utilize those air resources to get on the fires quickly. And it's just key. I think we love this topography of this state, and it is beautiful, but it is not very forgiving. It really is not very forgiving when it comes to fires. I know the gorge loves their wind. It is. I have plenty of friends who are windsurfers and active recreationists down there. But wind is one of the hardest things in the context of fire. And we had roughly 60-mile-per-hour winds in some places of the state just the last few days. And while most of our fires have been human caused, the 590 lightning strikes in one night certainly didn't do us any favor. So we're asking for help from above and we're asking for help on the ground here. Josh, do you have anything to add there? Actually, can I say one thing as you're coming up here? We talk a lot about the firefighters on the ground and the firefighters in the air, but there's an enormous amount of people behind the scenes that are making all the logistics of it all work, right? Everything from dispatchers to administrators to helping make sure we've got food for the firefighters. And as I was coming in here, I was talking to my region manager, Larry Leach, who was saying one of the areas we're right now struggling actually the most is actually having enough people behind the scenes who can actually help with all the administration that keeps the planes flying in and out and the people where they need to be and being fed and getting the rest they need and the services coming in.
Yeah, to her point, the quick initial attack is our best bet right now, and the state's air resources and your dozers and your crews have been a huge asset, but the whole system is taxed. And so what really matters right now is that fast, aggressive initial attack, and that's what we're struggling with right now, is to still initial attack these fires and support these other large incidents. So it really is a team effort, and we really don't need any more new starts right now that we can avoid, as well as when you don't leave an area, we can't access it. We can't safely engage our people. It's gonna put us on a bad foot from the start. It's also going to set us back to where more resources are caked up for a larger incident. Our best hope is a direct and aggressive initial attack to keep things as small as we possibly can.
And sort of add information on that context. A lot of people will, we might have at any given time 10 to 12 aviation resources on one of these larger fires to putting out. But throughout the day, you'll have sparks that happen, whether it's, largely human caused. And all of a sudden, we'll have to pull an air resource off of that to go do initial attack, quickly then bring them back. Sometimes people are wondering, why did that aircraft leave, right? It is because the more we can keep those other fires small and quickly put them out. Again, our goal is 90% of our fires put out before 10 acres. And last 2 years, we've been able to do 95% below 10 acres. The more we do that, the less of these catastrophic larger fires that have enormous amount of resources that go into it, the less of those we have. I mean, you can look, in the challenge in Oregon right now is, I don't know how many fires they have, but it is the entire state is largely blanketed with fires, and that takes an enormous amount of resources. And we're trying to keep most of the ones small right now. And just, we'd love to say we only had 10 major incidents, and that would be a great year. Anyone else? Yes. Yeah, this is Josh. Go ahead.
I can speak to Black Canyon. I don't have good, accurate intel for you on retreat, but on Black Canyon, we still are in a level 3 in this community here at the lake, and all the structures along. And then we're still up. We have structures up here in our northern division. They're all still at a threat rate right now of level 3. So we're asking those folks to remain out. But I do feel confident when we get through today's burn period, we'll be able to lower those to a level 2 and let folks back in. And I gotta hand it to the community up here. They have been very welcoming to us and showing us around and letting us into their property to deal with these smokes. But I will say that one of our biggest challenges is there's so much perimeter out here to cover, and we have so few resources that we just have to be diligent. Because if we lose this one, then we can't help anybody else. So to her point, we'll have to bring a bunch more equipment back in here. So things are looking good. We're on the uptick. If we get through today's burn period, I feel like we can start letting the communities back in and have a successful, secure fire to turn back over to the locals.
The retreat fire was one that was, I can't speak directly to the strategy on the ground right now because I'm not there, but I will say the retreat fire that's grown to almost 10,000 acres now, maybe a little more. Unfortunately, those winds that we had literally blew it out on both sides, making it one far larger very quickly, but also creating even more challenge now because it's that winds just aren't helpful, and the topography doesn't help us necessarily either. Yes.
What kind of impact does the structure of a fire like that, I know it's burning along both sides of the highway, when a fire is taking over sections of roadway, how does that impact ground crews' ability to fight it from that end?
I know you don't have to speak. You know how to do fires,
Yeah.
like on that context.
It's all about the egress of our people and the safety. So anytime a major roadway is impacted like that, the challenge we always have is our folks to safely engage and be able to egress. When you're dealing with a complex fire like that on both sides of a main road, obviously the values that are along there, it's just a lot of things to have to deal with. The biggest risk to our responders is their egress. So anytime a road like that's impacted, and from what I've seen, I believe Highway 12 is going to be impacted for quite some time. So that's our biggest threat. It's really our own egress. So anytime that folks aren't aren't giving us easy access or are remaining in there, it just means less good work that we can do and my people not being safe. So that's the biggest threat.
Yeah, just go ahead. Oh, don't be shy. Don't be shy.
I'm just making sure no one else wanted
Yeah.
to ask first. So with a fire like this, there is obviously a lot of attention on it from the public. I know that in previous fires, there's been some impact to emergency services and their ability to get where they need to go because of people who are driving to locations to watch the fires. Do you have a message for the public when it comes to people wanting to come through the fires, especially in small towns like Hilary and Hyacinth, where there's not a lot of roads to get where people are going?
I think my first statement will be we're asking people to join our firefighting team. And we're not asking you to show up at the fire, we're asking you to stay away. Right? The best people can do right now is actually just create the least amount of work and stress for our firefighters, our first responders. Everything from please don't fly any drones into any area where we are fighting fires. It means we have to down our aviation crew immediately. To the context of please people listen to the evacuation orders, don't second guess our emergency response and our team. They know how to keep people safe. They've been doing this for decades. Please listen. We're going to do everything we can to protect your home and your family, and that means you need to follow those orders. And then others who are coming out to watch, that's why we have you, the press, here to actually provide as much information and resources for them to understand. But the best thing they can do is right now just give their thoughts and prayers to the families of the communities that are impacted by these and our firefighters. And don't start any fires. I think it's important, we talked about this fire. There are 3 fires currently on the landscape that are over 30,000 acres in size. And we've seen larger. I was just getting an update on the fire situation up and down the West Coast. Oregon has a number of fires that are well into the hundreds of thousands of acres. And so they obviously are much more significant and larger than these. But the 3 that we have that are at the 30,000 acre level, one of them being Retreat, coupled with the Pioneer Fire, that's U.S. Forest Service fire, and we're providing support to them, and the other one, which is your Bighorn Fire, are it's now 50,000, are ones that are very, very challenging and significant. The larger they grow, the more resources is needed, oftentimes, again, in difficult topography. Like the Pioneer Fire, much of that fighting the fire is structural fighters in the community trying to protect the structures while we got hot shots. And difficult for aircraft to fly if the smoke's there, and much more limited. So tough days ahead and weeks, and in fact months. And yes.
Are any of the fires that are burning in Washington State right now close to areas where you have the Wildfire Ready Neighbors program? And if so, has the work that's been done with Wildfire Ready Neighbors helped protect structures in those areas?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. You're pointing to someone. Right? Yeah, no, I knew that. I didn't know if you were pointing to somebody to speak. I was like, what I would say, so our Wildfire Ready Neighbors has now been launched for about 2, maybe 3 years. It's in Spokane County, Okanogan County, Chelan County, Yakima County, Klickitat County, Kittitas County. We have it in Pierce, Mason, Thurston County. I might have left one out there, and I apologize. And so I would say every one of those counties has already had a fire, and obviously I think it has already helped. And I would just say we're yet to see how it goes this fire season. But obviously Yakima County with 2 significant fires here, a fire in Klickitat County. Whether that homeowners taken action or their neighbors have, we don't necessarily know right now, but my hope on the only positive that comes out of this kind of fire season is people's awareness that no one in this state is immune from fires, and there are certainly communities that have far greater risk where they can take action. I just got a note from a friend of mine. One of her friends' house just burned down in the Natchez area, and he wanted to thank all of our firefighters and everybody who's been doing everything to fight those fires, and just unbelievable gratitude. But also, he is now struggling with significant loss for him and his family. So this is real. Yes.
You just mentioned that there are two significant fires in the Yakima Valley. So when I was talking with the Red, I contacted the Red Cross, but both of the evacuations, they cannot stand that because nobody came. Do you know where people are going given that level?
I don't. I would just say, I mean, probably that's good that government, I don't think people want to know that I know where they went, but I bet that Mars. What I would say is most often, I know people that I know, and just a few, it's a handful, went to family and friends that have been taken in. But I think we need the Red Cross available, because we do not know, especially when you have the conditions we've had, especially the wind. You don't know when it could blow out again. You don't know where it could blow out. You don't know how. We're going to try to keep it contained, as Josh had said, and same, we're going to try to make significant progress on the retreat fire. But having experienced the two Spokane County fires last year, which were unbelievable devastation, and seeing what an amazing gift Red Cross was and how much they provided to the community there. Grateful for Red Cross being there. We all are. And we're just thankful that they're there for those who might not have family or friends who can take them in. I think part of what you have right now is not as significant of us. You have a number of people left, but they have places to go and they've been planning for it. I mean, one of the things about Yakima County is it has plenty of experience in wildfires, similar to Clackatat. It's not necessarily a gift, but at least it gives them experience to prepare. Yes.
With the big fire that we had out in White Swan and the number of structures that were lost there, is there, and the fact that we've had fires there since, is there a concern specifically about that area that we could see something similar to what we saw in Melbourne?
A question for you, Josh. Maybe. I mean, I
could generalize.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say one thing. I mean, Malden, I'll just say, I hope the state never experiences what happened in Labor Day 2020, right? I mean, you had hurricane force winds in every corner of central and eastern Washington. We had 56 fires in 24 hours. We had 600,000 acres burn in 72 hours, just 600,000 acres in 72 hours. And the town of Malden literally burned in 2 hours, 80% of the structures lost. For that, it often takes not only the hot, dry degree weather that we've had here consistently, but it takes those hurricane force winds. That's why I get very, very scared. I was nervous on Wednesday for the conditions. It is nice that the wind is not blowing here, but wind is what creates that kind of real unfortunate tragedy.
Yeah, to the earlier point about fuels management, I mean, that's really the only thing we can manipulate at this point is the fuel. So in no community, in my opinion, in Eastern Washington is going to be immune to a catastrophic wildfire. So the importance of dealing with those fuels, it's the only thing we can affect right now. We can remove the fuel and we can give firefighters a chance. That's our best shot.
Yes.
One, I believe,
I think it's probably safe to say they're both human caused, but we don't have enough details to say. Yes.
Has there been any progress in finding the driver that you guys are attempting to locate the question in connection with the Black Canyon fire?
For you, Josh?
yeah, we're good.
We're good?
We focus.
Okay, great. There you go. We have.
Did it help?
We focus.
Stay tuned. Anyone else? You're all baking here under the sun. Just imagine my firefighters in their Nomax. Even worse. Hotter, more challenging. Anything else, anyone? Thank you all. I will say thanks to the media. This is obviously very, very important. The more we're raising the attention on the issue around fires, the better we will be able to keep everyone safe and reduce them. So thank you.